Meet Dennis, a hyperfunctional professional. For Dennis, flying is like taking the bus. It's just something he has to do for work. Getting in and out of the airport, avoiding delays, and being fully up to date about his flight is what is most important to Dennis. Being able to work as long as possible is the only way for him to make frequent same route traveling efficient. Working in a high-stress environment, anything that can improve efficiency and minimize the many stresses associated with travel are of interest to Dennis and this type of customer persona. Not surprisingly, though, airports and travel are filled with annoyances that make efficiency and no-stress travel very difficult. So what exactly are these pain points for Dennis? Delays. Disruptions often mean meetings will be missed or will need to be rescheduled. Hassle. Between security screening, airport crowds, and transportation to and from the airport, if something happens, that means Dennis has to deal with rebooking and other stuff that requires unnecessary extra time and effort. Being idle. Having up-to-date information is important and necessary for Dennis to effectively manage his business travel arrangements. Not receiving the right information at the right time means being stuck in the airport for more time than is necessary. Being idle means lost time with his wife and kids back home. Ultimately, Dennis is looking for something that will help him worry less, improve transportation to the airport, and will bring him a feeling of security. So what is our solution to tackle these pain points? We present Vueling Direct. How does it work? The customer books a flight and buys the Vueling Direct service. Vueling Direct is connected with the Vueling flight details and with the airport. The car will arrive at the right time to get the customer at the airport. Dennis gets to the airport on time and with no friction. The same happens from the airport to the hotel. Vueling Direct, from Barcelona to Paris in just one click. Now we'd like to present our first prototype. The first version of our concept prototype included an add-on option to manage pre- and post-airport travel with Vueling. This option was on the same webpage as seat selection and other value-added services. This service was offered as a pay-per-use for the customer. Overall pricing for the travel would depend on the total distance traveled. Once the customer approves the service and updates the location, the customer wouldn't have to worry about the trip. There would be a reminder about the trip one day before the trip. Any flight delays would be proactively communicated, and the travel to and from the airport would be adjusted as well. The assigned driver will come and pick the customer and drop the customer to the airport. After deboarding from the flight, the driver would pick the customer up from Vueling, where there would be a specified pickup point at the airport, and drop the customer to their destination. What did we learn from the first prototype? After testing the first prototype with several interviews with potential users, we considered making the experience even less stressful. Firstly, we implemented the subscription system to make the cost predictable for the users. In the first prototype, when customers paid with credit cards, they didn't know the exact amount that they would be charged. To solve this issue, we changed the payment model to subscription. Secondly, we introduced 3 levels of plans depending on flight frequency. To make the offer most valuable for the user, we split it into 3 price ranges to provide flexibility and to make sure that the service was useful for every type of consumer. Finally, this solution became even friendlier for the end user. The user no longer has to enter directions every time the service is booked. Which brings us to our second prototype. From the Vueling airline website, the user enters the Vueling business section. There, he can choose 3 levels of the solution according to his flight frequency. The 3 levels are offered at different prices, tailoring to the occasional, medium, and very high usage frequent business flyers. It would be possible to pay monthly or to do a lump sum annual payment. The chosen option will be added to this and consequent bookings automatically. Pickup addresses will be configured in the Vueling account, and the service will link to the user's Vueling personal account. The solution aligns hassle-free journey to and from the airport with reliable information on the flight status. The solution reliability links the user to a driver, taking into account the flight time and traffic situation in the place of departure or arrival. In-car alerts ensure the user can make the most of his or her time in the car, preparing for meetings or taking a personal moment to themselves. While at the airport, the solution proactively updates the user on flight status and possible delays. Upon arrival at the destination, the solution provides the user with a reliable driver and a safe way to get to their final destination. After creating and testing our second prototype, we were able to come up with very useful key findings. Upon further testing, we found that we had failed to identify the real stakeholders. Therefore, we need to reach out to additional stakeholders who manage the booking and travel for the business persona, and then further develop the prototype with them. Secondly, a majority of interviews revealed that this feature is a nice to have, but not necessarily something that they require. Therefore, we should test the concept with a larger population to understand the viability and the business prospect of the solution itself. Our last key finding had to do with pricing and the positioning of Vueling Direct within other value-added services. Few interviews mentioned the flexibility to have other value-added services like priority boarding and overhead space be combined with the existing offer. We believe this is worth further research to understand how this might impact our pricing structure and overall viability of the proposed solution. Which leads us to our recommendations for Vueling. Should Vueling be interested in taking this idea forward, we recommend 4 key action items. The first is more research and testing with the real stakeholders to identify key features most valuable. The second, evaluate the option to include all business-related offerings, such as Vueling Direct, priority onboarding, priority seating, and overhead cabin space in a one-package solution. The third, assess different revenue model scenarios to ensure profit maximization while also serving these business consumers. And the last is test the concept of positioning this offering as a last mile connectivity option.